All right, and there is the video stream, the audio stream at oldtuberadio.net, and live, if you are there, channel 11, 27085 in the RF zone, wherever that might be tonight. Could be a wider RF zone, as we are here in Washington and Oregon. Greetings to those tuning in, listening into the Old Tube Radio Network, where we will be talking with and about those glow-in-the-dark radios from 1958 to 1978 when they were being produced on the shelf, and in 2019 when they are on your shelf, hopefully checking in here at the Old Tube Radio Network. It is also our new 8-week roster. So I have a chore to do before we get started, and that is pick from all those with perfect attendance here who the new and improved 00 might be, so we can get things started off. Hello to those on the video. Looks like OBPE is there. Hello, Kevin. New York, hello, Smarty. And I think I saw DDX. Ray is out there as well. A lot of you listening in at oldtuberadio.net. All right, here is the 00 item, if I can unfold the paper. I think Bozo Control writes these on... Now, this is actually on notebook paper rather than on the dinner napkin. SWL 77. Where is it? There you go. There you go. 77, 10, 17. And I think, unless he's shoot and skip with the big antenna, I think I heard Dennis out there. Over.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, believe it or not, you are in the 00 position here. Let me mark that down so I don't forget. All right. And I will say SWL 00 so you can say that you're checking in.
Well, I'm honored and checking in.
And thanks for checking in, and we'll catch you again at the at the appropriate time. I'm just checking a few things here. I think it's okay. I'll adjust the video as we go, and we will keep an eye out on, if you check in at oldtuberadio.net, I'll refresh the page and make sure I get everybody as we call them. Also, SWL number 1, who knows how to check in even when he's not around. SWL number 2 is around. 23, he said the number on the sunspot were, so that's up from where it has been, and maybe that's what's helping out with our E-skip tonight. I'm not sure. SWL number 3 checking in from Thursday night. Saw him at the bowling alley. Said to make sure that he gets checked in. SWL 4. SWL 5, Ida, Mama Rose, looking better, and checking in from over at Glen Agnes. SWL 6. SWL 7.
SWL 7, checking in.
Checking in and checked in. How is the QRM? No, yeah, QRM tonight. How's the noise level over there?
Actually, almost negligible. So yeah, there's almost nothing here. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
All right, might be able to hear the skip coming in tonight, because I think it has been. I'm not sure if it's gray line or not. We will see. Thanks for checking in. We've got SWL 11 and 12 checking in via email. Get them marked in here. You can see through the window in the back there. That's the plants, the flora and the fauna in the back, blowing around with the current wind, but it feels nice. 76 in the radio room here tonight. See if we can cool that down a little bit. Got the tubes fired up. You just never know. SWL 13. That is Mike sometimes checking in at old@tuberadio.net. I see there are quite a few out there. Hello to California. We've got Canada, Maryland, Georgia coming up to you, North Carolina. Looks like we need an early check-in. Let's do that now for Neil, who is going to be performing, doing some early morning stuff with the sunrise service there. Neil, 147, you're checked in if you need to get out. You are checked in tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us. New York is in there. See Brentwood, of course. Utah coming up to you. Virginia, Maryland, Tennessee, Colorado. Keep 27085 on the receiver. It just might happen. Kentucky and another Canadian station. Hello to you. All right, well, we've certainly got a quorum out there tonight. SWL 14.
Break.
And the breaking station, go ahead.
Yeah, I got something I want to bring up. Hey, how can it be okay for somebody to check in if they're not here? Because a minute ago you said so-and-so wasn't here, but wanted to be checked in for this week. How can you go 8 weeks and not be here, but make it all week long?
Interesting question. You can get you can have someone check you in as a proxy check-in. You can check in on the crossband. You can check in via email earlier. You can check in via Facebook at some time. You can, I guess, check in personally if you see me somewhere around here and or there. For perfect attendance, let's address that. For those, when we talk about perfect attendance in 8 weeks in a row, items like that, you actually have to be heard 7 out of the 8 weeks. That means you have to be either heard live on the crossband or heard live on the air, and we'll allow one proxy check-in to get the 8. But to do the 8, to get the perfect attendance, you do have to be here 7 weeks with the voice item. Over.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, otherwise it would be too easy. Some people do go out of town for extended period of times and would like to keep their number, and so they can. We establish that one proxy check, in which you only really need once to hold on to the number. But typically, if you haven't checked in 8 weeks, we like to recycle the number since there is a finite amount of them. So that's sort of how that happened years and years ago. And then on the perfect attendance, you have to be here at least 7 weeks. That means vocally seen or heard, with only one substitute check-in for that. Direct and net roll calls where we are at. The glowing in the dark radios will be happening shortly once we get done with the roll call. Looking for SWL 15. SWL 16. SWL 17. SWL 18. SWL 19. Shortwave listener 20. And I don't have, I do. I do have he said he wasn't going to be here this week to get a proxy check, in which we will do. Let me switch the video over to something a little more exciting than myself. I think we can do the Orban loudness meter. No, I know what we'll do. We'll do the S meter. So if you're watching the video later on or live, you will be able to video check as you check in. There we go. SWL 21 checking in early, as he may have the radio on, but is entertaining family and guests. Sometimes it is hard to jump away in the radio room. We understand that, so thanks for jumping over at altituderadio.net and letting us know. Mr. JT does have the ground rod up and running, though. I think that's a 24/7. It's sort of like, what is it? I on the West Coast, that would be 7-Eleven or Winco. I don't know in South Carolina what your 24-hour grocery store is, but sort of like that. SWL 22. SWL 23. Shortwave listener 24. SWL 25. There are a lot of people out entertaining and getting ready for whatever they do on the Easter Sunday. Maybe you're going to bed early because, like Neil, you've got places to be very early. Next, we've got SWL 27. Oh, and I didn't mention, I do not have the crossband. The antenna and coax are still not working properly. So if anyone is listening on the crossband, I would appreciate if you hear someone trying to get through to relay me here at 27085. Again, the crossband radio is not in a mode where I can receive or transmit properly. So if you hear somebody kindly pass along the 10.5. Is that what we used to say, the 10.5 on the 10 code? Over to SWL 28. Got to check in, pre-check in for SWL 29, SWL 30. SWL 31. I went through the list pretty fast. Let me go back to see if Hendersonville, Tennessee is on, and of course they are. They must have the ultimate alarm clock to know when, probably better than me. They know better than I do when OTR is supposed to be happening. More timely than me. Thanks. That's Robert Treese out there in Hendersonville, Tennessee. In their radio room, no doubt, listening into the Universal Media Net web device. Over to SWL 32. SWL 33, myself, Bozo Control, who I do not see, or else we would get a honking of the proboscis. I do notice that if I look across the room here, jingle singers are at the ready. SWL 34. SWL 35, I did see a post from Mr. Bill checking in from Cowboy Country there in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Over to SWL, thanks, Bill. SWL 36. Shortwave listener 37. SWL 38. SWL 39. SWL 40. SWL 41. SWL 42.
Let's proxy in 42 in the gang.
I can do that. 1 out of 3, 33 1/3% here. Where are we going next? SWL 43. SWL 44, who is waving a hand all over the place. Old2radio.net. I do believe that Ray is also over on the video side. Let me see what's happening on the video. Ryan is listening, having a little DX from Cali right now. Ryan, you probably told me, where are you? Oh, you're in Oregon. All right, Central Oregon. Seaweed 534. All right. Up there in Central Oregon, see if we can make the short long hop. And Ferg Gerbert back, second-time listener. Hope to hear some skip and get on the radio waves as well. Hello from Central Oregon as well. Well, we've got a Central Oregon consortium out there. We will see. I'll try and beacon the signal down Highway 5, Interstate 5, and see what we can do. John in Iowa, the mighty Juliet Whiskey went to the Kansas City Harbash today. High gain 623. First one I've seen. I'm not even sure what that is. I'm glad you saw one. New York is in. OBP is listening. All right, that's our on the video side. You get to the video thing. If you're subscribing, I guess it happens, or you can click on the video link that's on the main page at oldtuberadio.net, where we are showing the S meter right now. So if you're seeing the not-so-analog S meter, you're probably in the right spot. Let's get back to the roll call, heading up to North Fork for SWL 45.
Sounded good, Dennis. 45.
Everything seems to be working. We'll see if we can keep it that way, and likewise, Paul, you're sounding good as well.
Thank you, Dennis.
SWL 46. Shortwave listener 47. SWL 48, I think I saw Mr. Sam. Let me go to the other screen here if I can find, there's a mouse. I'm sure I saw Mr. Sam saying check in 48 and 54, and I guess that was probably him that I heard live. So, Sam, we got you in digital and live stuff as well. Over to SWL 49. And I'll check for Brian. He sometimes kicks in at oldtuberadio.net on the big page. Hopefully he can do that tonight. SWL 50.
50 here. Checking in.
A 5 and a 0, a 10 times 5. Mr. 50 is in. I'll click the button, and that makes you officially checked in. Thank you, Mark.
Copy that. Would you also proxy 650?
650 up there in the hills. We'll do that. Thanks. SWL 51.
SWL 51 checking in.
SWL, a shortwave listener. That's the designator for that. A lot of us started out as shortwave listeners even before we got our first microphoniums. Thanks for checking in, Dave. SWL 52. SWL 53. Thanks for the clarification. High gain 623 is a radio. It's a 1974-ish 23-channel with a tube final. Ah, no wonder it is rare. A hybrid, and one of the last. Interesting. I don't think, Kevin, are you listening? I don't think we've ever had a high gain 623 check-in or try to check in or be denied a check-in. Do you remember a 623? That would be a super rare item. So at least they're still out there. We've got a check-in for SWL 54 as we go over to page 3. If I put the proper mark right there. Over to SWL 55. SWL 56.
Good evening, Dennis and the net. Wishing everyone a very happy Easter.
Yes, indeed. A happy Easter. You know what we're missing is the Easter Bunny. The Cliff, for many, many years, maybe he's out there, I don't know, has the Easter Bunny. He keeps the Easter Bunny around and then brings the Easter Bunny to the microphonium, usually at about this time. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for checking in. SWL 57. SWL 58.
SWL 58, located at the gates to the windy west side. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, and the gates are open. Here in Midtown, things are blowing around a bit. Stirring up a little bit of dust, but it feels good. Thanks for checking in, Jeremy. SWL 59. SWL 60.
Thank you much, Dennis. Happy Easter to all the bunch out there for sure there, and congratulations, Dennis, the menace. Boy, you hit it off this time, buddy. We'll be talking about it. SWL 60 checking in this base, Jake's base, the DX 2527.
And on my roll call sheet, it does say 2901 DX 2527 radio right next to SWL 60 and Mr. Hustler. Thanks, Joe. Sounding good here on the Old Tube Radio Network.
Thank you much, Dennis.
SWL 61.
61 checking in, Dennis.
And the wind is blowing in the right direction. Sounding good, Dean. Thanks.
Thanks, Dennis.
SWL 62.
Hey, good time, Dennis. This is 62, checking in from downtown Clovis, on frequency and on time. Have a good Easter and get a lot of eggs tomorrow.
Yeah, I've got to go hunting for the eggs before Bozo Control and the Jingle Singers find everything, and I get nothing as usual. I just get the little basket with the green straw in there. You are sounding great. The radio is good. The audio is nice. And everything is cool in beautiful downtown Clovis. Thanks for checking in. SWL 63. BB and the gang out of New York. So our New York stations listening in. Getting a check-in. Thanks to 63 tonight and OBP saying no. I agree with you, Kevin. I don't think we've ever encountered a high gain 623. We'll have to put that on our unobtainium list of radios that we would like to hear. We have done quite a few in our 33, 34 years of doing this, but maybe not that particular one. If you're thinking about radios, stay with us. If you're watching the video, radio check-ins will be after the roll call. Looking for SWL 64?
64, checking in from beautiful Merced.
You are sounding good from Merced. Beaconing through Chowchilla and the Pilot service station and right down here to Midtown. We got you checked in. That's true, DX. SWL 65. SWL 66. SWL 67. And let's see, I've refreshed my screen. SWL 40 from the crossband, which I can't hear, but he's listening in, working on his station. Also check in 27. Okay, that is Mr. Dwayne. My apologies to those on the FM side. I will work on got the antenna, and then the coax was no good. And since it is that frequency, I got to have a decent coax for the match. So thanks for those crossband check-ins. Let's call SWL 68. That we Thomas out of Texas. I don't see any Texas stations on the queue. SWL 69.
69, checking in, Dennis.
And Kenny is out there listening as usual. Sounding good, sir. We've got you checked in. And Rob listening in from Colorado. Romeo United. Maybe some E-skip. We will see. We'll be listening. We've got some good stations out on the band tonight listening in also, so maybe we'll get some contact with somebody. The Bob and Steve show on the air, hanging out in the green room with the ladies and jingle singers, the ICOM 7300. Don't cut the green wire. They cut the green wire. They removed the diode, and now they're on 27085. So if there is any form of skip land, we might be hearing from them live and direct. Just be careful. And they are going to make sure that when I go into the room, into the studio next door to clean up, that maybe there will be some cookie crumbs. Thanks, guys. Let's try SWL 70.
Hello, Dennis. 70 checking in from Morgan Canyon. Delta Mike 7. Back to Midtown.
All right, here in sequestered, nestled into DM06. The DM06. Probably the more correct way to say it. And good luck in whatever contest you choose. And speaking of contests, here's a guy that is no stranger to contesting and things of that nature. SWL 71, who is listening in? Stan in the radio room tonight out there in Dallas, Georgia. Thanks, Stan, for tuning in. The old Tube Radio Network. SWL 72. SWL 73. Shortwave listener 74. SWL 75. Our station that is now in the 00 position, but of course looking good at SWL 77.
Good evening to all the listeners, and you too, Dennis. 77 on the Tower of Power out of the Tower District on the old Cam 88, waving a hand.
All right, beaconing in and across who knows what. If there is any kind of skip going on tonight, I'm sure they will hear that station. Sounding good. Thanks for checking in. SWL 78. Shortwave listener 79. And John saying, nice to hear Merced live. It was a great trip. I know, wasn't there a station that had the 8-element lightning that was up there in Atwater? that used to actually make it down here. So that's almost Merced, isn't it? And the station's down there in Hanford with the big beams pointed this way. You gotta be tricky if you wanna get into Midtown. Did I call 79? How about SWL 80? Page 4. SWL 81.
81 here, and I think my radio is celebrating 420. It's got a buzz.
You know, I heard a couple radios tonight already that are starting to celebrate early, but that's okay as long as we can get you checked in. Mr. Unicorn waving a hand, and even though sometimes we can't hear him if he's not in front of the microphone, but saying, as he often does, totals. Maybe we'll give, let's see, it's the 9 o'clock. Maybe we'll do like a on the hour totals, because there's only 1 hour. Before, when it was 3 hours, you had to shout totals at us. But now, with 2 hours, I guess we'll do like the mid halfway through. You are sounding good.
All right. Well, yeah, you are too. You're just, it's a really clear reception out here tonight. I don't think there's any place where in town anyway, where you can get electronic components. Is there, like capacitors?
No Whitcomb, no Arbuckle, no Radio Shack. Probably not. It's probably mail order all the way.
Yeah, I was going to look over at my mom's. You saw what I had over there. Maybe I can come up with something over there. But yeah, other than that, you got to order them over the internet or a special order.
Or find. Back in the old days, like we used to, when somebody was junking an old television set, you'd haul it home and pull out some of the stuff, and then your dad would come out and say, What is this? Get this out of here. Take it back to where you found it. So, yeah, you have to wait for somebody to throw out something so you can scrounge some parts, I guess.
All right, well, I do appreciate the check-in. You're sounding good out here. Downtown corner of State National. I'm out and listening.
All right, sounding good. The All-Tube Radio Network here. Real radios are coming up shortly as we get through the phone. Let's get through the phone calls. I mean, get through the roll call, maybe the phone calls as well. SWL 82.
82, checking in from the ditch banks of Iowa. Good evening, all.
Good evening. Sounding good from the ditch banks. I know you had to sprinkle them down, like they do with the baseball fields. You know, they take the hose and sprinkle it down a little bit so it won't blow away. Ditch banks are in good shape tonight. Thanks. And our Oregon stations are waiting for the skip. Our Washington stations up in Spokane, 709, who I think has beaconed into the net here a few times. We've probably got it on audio videotape somewhere. Hello, John, and those up in Washington waiting for the skip to open up tonight. Let's see if we've got an SWL 84. All right, I hear you, but just barely. I'm not sure if that was a bad key up or if it's a battery issue. Taking one more transmission, I will make sure to get all the ladies in, but I just want to make sure that just wasn't a miss key.
All right, just turn it up just a tad bit there. 84 checking in there, Dennis.
All right, that's better. Probably can go up a little bit more, but you are heading the right direction.
All righty, well, I'm so used to talking on sideband on this thing with the volume just barely cracked. So now she's about noon o'clock there, Roger.
Okay, sounds like there might be a connection issue. Another station coming in with a buzz. It seems to be happening tonight, but I hear you. Maybe we'll work on it. We're in the tube section if you are around, but it is getting some audio now.
Check. We'll check it out. Thanks, Dennis.
Then we go to Reedleytown for SWL 85.
85, trying it live, yeah.
Live sounding good. Nice audio as well. Into Central Fresno tonight. We've got you checked in. Thanks, John. Then we have, let's see, one of our triple plays tonight, right and righty, 6, 87, and 88. That is the Mountain Maid, Tandy Girl, and Snowy Owl, respectively. Over to SWL 89. SWL 90 is our second of the big three. Over to SWL 92. Okay, nothing heard from Madeira. SWL 93.
Fresno Bagger 1, checking in.
Sandbagger Uno is checked in. Sounding good, sir.
Oh, thank you much, and happy Easter to all the SWLs out there, including yourself there, and we'll be on the site.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Just checking the list here. Who else is beaconing in? Mr. KUH. Hello, Brian, who is waving a hand and saying good evening to all here on the West Coast tonight for the Old Tuber Radio Network. Over to SWL 98.
Checking in, Dennis.
98 is checking in. Fresno Dave. Put the X in the square. Thank you, sir. Over to Mobiling, perhaps. SWL 103. Shortwave listener 109. SWL 110. He tried it earlier. He checked in on the main page, but we'll see if Robert is listening from Reedley right now. SWL 111. Yeah, making it through. Got the ground wave flutter, but I can hear you, and we've got you checked in live and direct. That's 2 for Reedley. Yeah, it's amazing. We're getting the 532-mile skip. The 32-mile conditions are just barely hanging in there. Sounds good, though. Thanks for hanging out and giving it a try. It was worth it. I got you checked in. SWL 113. Shortwave listener 114.
114, checking in.
114. Hello, Wayne. You are sounding good as always. And we've got you checked in one more time. Thanks.
Happy Easter to all.
Takes us up to shortwave listener 128. And I do believe John Lee is in there. Let me scroll down the page here and see what is happening in Virginia tonight. Bad storm. Uh-oh. Last night power was out till noon today. Glad it's back. 40-meter dipole is down. That's not good. Not a good day. No, I would definitely say not a good day. And he has a high gain 623 in queue for rebuild. It sounds like definitely one to hang on to. And hopefully there's enough info on those that you can get the rebuild and find the parts. I wonder what tube that runs. A one tuber, huh? 12 BY7A, 6146. Probably not a 6146. Anyway, good luck on the rebuild and hopefully get the 40-meter dipole back up and power on, and things won't be so nasty in the future. That's our digital listener, John Lee out there in Fairfax, Virginia. Thanks for, despite all the wackiness going on, hanging out with us on the Old Tube Radio Network tonight. We appreciate it. Over to SWL 131. SWL 133.
Good evening, Dennis. SWL 133 is checking in.
133. Out of Northwest Fresno. That is Dave at the microphonium. Sounding good. We got you checked in.
Thank you, Dennis.
Then we go to the station responsible for a lot of our great photo shots that we use when we check in the tube radios. SWL 135.
135 and the Easter Bunny checking in.
It is definitely Easter now. We have missed the balking Easter Bunny, but not tonight. How about that? On cue. I was thinking, oh, he's probably doing a crossband thing, and the crossband is down, and I'm going to miss it all. But live and direct. You are sounding good. Hope the radio room is holding up in 2019.
Oh, I'm outside tonight, and it's a blustery day.
It turned into, it was sort of nice. It was a nice breeze. I was out this morning doing yard work. It was sort of like, it's a nice breeze, not blowing up the dust. Then it got a little worse, a little more intense. And now it is definitely a blustery day. However, unlike SWL 128, our power is still on. The antennas are still up. Let's see, my 2-meter came down like a couple weeks ago when we had the really bad winds. But so not too much to complain about. Thanks for the check-in. You're sounding great. The Easter Bunny has set the mood.
Oh, so I can't check in on 2 meters anymore?
You can check in on 2 meters, but I won't hear you tonight as my antenna is not functioning. It's not providing a signal into the crossband, but hopefully I will get the coax I need shortly, and you will be able to check in and be heard.
Oh, okay, thanks. I was wondering, because I do that every once in a while. Okay, well, happy Easter, and we'll check this in later.
Yeah, a lot of stations check in that way if they want to be heard live, and I think we have a couple stations monitoring to help us out tonight for the crossband check-ins, SWL 135, and our annual visit from the Easter Bunny. Let's see, one of our annual visits, the Easter Bunny, and then at Christmas time we get the Christmas Tree Lane thing, and we have all sorts of traditions here on the Old Tube Radio Network. One of them is checking in your radios, and that will be coming up in just a few minutes. Looking for SWL 137, who we will check in. That takes care of the trio there. Let's head over to Tony was listening in last week remotely and tuned in later. I wonder if he's live and direct tonight. SWL 145.
145 checking in. Break.
Yeah, hello, 145. I hear you. Over. All right, we hear you, Tony. 145. Sounded like you might have had some radio problems there, but no problem. We heard your check-in for 145. Speaking of issues, SWL 147, Neil from Kakalaki checked in earlier. I don't think he's still out there. He has to play for a sunrise service in the morning, so he needed to check out early since he's all the way in a different time zone out there in North Carolina. So we got him checked in. Let's head up let's see how the high altitude stations are doing. So far, so good. Here in North Fork, fine. Let's try Course Gold. SWL 195.
195, checking in, Dennis. Sounds good up here.
All right, thanks for having a good receiver to pick up the likes of me with the micro milliwatted mismodulated mud machine here. Thanks, Jim. Got you checked in. Over to SWL 226. Over to any stations that might need to check in that I missed, or maybe you're just popping in now. Give me a moment or two. I'm going to set up for the Tube Radio check-ins. We re-up the old OTR net stream, so you'll see that pop up and back. Video will keep running, and back in a moment with your Tube Radios on the Old Tube Radio Network.
This is SWL 40 standing by.
And I've said it before, but I will say it once again. You are listening, watching, however you're doing it. This is the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite spot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
The station for you is
OTR.
We hope the station for you is OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network, where real radios glow in the dark thanks to our radio collectors. 27085 is our frequency of choice. That's channel 11 if you'd like to try and pick us up through your radio receiving device. oldtuberadio.net for the audio stream, and there is a video stream as well at Google, YouTube. Hopefully we can hear from you. OTR is listening.
135, 135.
45.
Two stations heard. Hello, Paul, 45. Jump into the green room. We will be back to you in a moment with radio, your Radio 2. But we go now to, and I need to bring up the radio list, which is way over here, to Cliff, SWO 135, who is stepping up into the air chair to tell us about our radio number 1 tonight. Over.
Yeah, hi there. SWL 135 here on the General Radio Telephone, Super MC 11A. 24 channels, according to the front panel on here. And the stock handheld, what is this? It looks like Charlie Mike 1, CM1. Is that 1? No, it's a Charlie Mike 3, gray plastic type mic.
All right, this is a treat tonight, and I need to make a video adjustment here. It looks a little dark. Here we go. Not sure my video display. Typically, we get a Super MC 11A check-in every week. And typically, the picture you are seeing, if you're watching the video or up to oldtuberadio.net, is the one we show for the radio that checks in. But tonight, the treat is the radio checking in, I believe, is actually the one we're looking at in the photo here tonight. So back to you on the Super MC 11A. Over.
Yeah. Hello. Is it working now? Okay. It's one of my more reliable radios, too. I have submitted a photo. Like I say, I'm outside, so I can't see what you got up there, but it's probably mine.
It is yours. It is the one, it is on the air. The S meter is, I don't know, maybe at 3 or 4 S units. Channel 11 is beaconing in the green channel selector where it should be. And prominently displayed is what looks like the General Radio Telephone. It's got a G something, and the sort of teardrop shaped stock microphonium. Over.
That's the one. The G General. It should say General with a huge capital G, and below that the Charlie Mike number 3. Basic handheld kind of microphone. So let's see. I think that's about it. Happy Easter, everybody, and happy Easter from the Easter Bunny. I can't believe that thing still works after all these years.
It's working. I think I remember it working a little bit more better, a little better, but the bunny is still doing its thing when it's supposed to. Good deal. Super MC 11A General Radio Telephone. It is 9 tubes, a couple of transistors in there. I think that was for the DC to DC conversion, something like that. It has the infamous 12AX7A for some good audio, and the even more infamous ECLL 800 for some audio and RF as well. Our first radio at 8:45. It's good to hear you on, Cliff. Good to hear you right here on 27085, and thanks for bringing out the whole gang tonight on the Old Tube Radio Network.
Could I ask a quick question about that tube?
You can ask a quick question. I don't know if I will have the quick answer or not. Actually, the station who will be checking in next may be able to answer as well, but go ahead and ask the question. Over.
Yeah, I wonder if one of the tubes you mentioned is the one I'm looking at. There's one really large tube, more or less right in the middle of the, what do you call it, the vent grill. I was wondering if, I see a 6, oh wait, is that GAL11? That's a smaller tube, but then there's a really big tube right behind it, right in the middle of the radio. You don't know what one that is, do you?
I don't. I mean, when Paul checks in next, he may be able to help us out memory-wise from if he knows where the tubes are, or which, if the ECL 800 is the large one. The 6AL11 is V7 local oscillator buffer doubler. V6, now I don't know where they are in the, oh, wait a minute. I have a schematic here. Hold on a second. Let me go take a little extra time here. Let me run this back. Let me pop that up. Unfortunately, it's just horribly blurry, so that's not going to work. The ECL 800 is V6, phase inverter modulator output, and V5 the 12AX7A. So hang on a second, and we'll see if Paul remembers if the large tube in there is the ECLL 800. Speaking of Paul, let's skip over to SWL 45. Are you copying us? Over?
Oh, yeah, I'm copying you. Right now I'm looking at a magic eye on mine. You're going to have to repeat that question. I have a hard time hearing it. I don't must have a mountain in our way. But anyway, I'd like to check in my helicopter CB1.
Okay, and we've got a great shot of the CB1, thanks to the collection of Cliff, who is listening in. And the question I have refers to the general radio telephone series, like the MC9 and the MC11 and Super MC11A. The ECLL 800, is that the bigger tube? If you're looking inside the radio, is the 800 the big tube? Over?
By memory, I'd have to look at a diagram on the thing, but if I remember right, I believe the right-hand side front, the long, skinny tube, not really skinny, but not a fat tube. That's ECLL 800, if that helps you at all.
Okay, it might. I don't know if you were able to copy or not, Cliff.
I can't hear him very well, but yeah, I just was kind of curious. I can't read the top of the tube because it's old and I think it's worn off. I was just curious. It's the only really big tube in the radio.
All right, that's probably the 800. That's kind of a longer, skinnier tube. Oh, and we've got a cat that's walking on the audio board. We'll see if he takes us off the air here. No, I think I'm still on. All right. So that has all the possibilities of being that tube. Over.
Okay, well, thanks.
All right, thank you. Radio number 1, the General Radio Telephone Super MC11A, and radio number 2 just popped up the picture. It's the Helicrafters CB1 with the magic eye. Helicrafters' first issue into Class D11 meters, and they sort of took stuff off the shelf that they already had. It was like a speaker cabinet, and was able to put a transceiver inside of that, as well as the magic eye. Just a really cool, unique looking radio with the push to talk lever. So I imagine, Paul, you are having to press the bar as I go back to you.
Yeah, I got to get used to that. Yeah, you don't have to do it very often. Now, yeah, it's a neat radio. I'm lucky enough for this thing. I got all the original tubes that came with it, but I didn't get something that Cliff has, and that's his speakers, his microphone. I'm using a, let's see, what am I using? Okay, it's a non-amplified model electric voice, model 727. Actually, it's the same color as the radio, so it matches it pretty good. Just not the stock micro, just non-amplified mic, of course. And that's about it. It's a real clean radio. Nothing there is bright. It's just it's a big radio, actually, for back in then. It wasn't small like the ones coming up. Out of the 3As and all that, they're a lot smaller than this thing. Anyway, back to you.
Back to me. All right, I moved the picture so we could see the supplied microphone, probably a crystal, almost looks like a crystal microphonium. You have changed the microphone. Good audio, and it is moving the meter around in the forward mode, so it's enough audio as well. Not much to go wrong with that radio, as long as you can see the magic eye blinking at you and you've got the volume up. Does it even have a squelch? I don't even know if it's a squelch control, but it's got the push to talk, and it works quite nicely over.
Yeah, it works excellent. I'll tell you, very, very good, if I got all that right again. I want to ask you a question, and I'm looking for the cost of what this radio sold for, and I can't find it in my books. My books go all the way back to 61 on this CB1. Do you have any idea?
I'm checking. I misspoke. That actually is a little phone. That was their first little phone, CB1. 1959 is when that came out. It is in Sam's PhotoFax CB number 1. If you've got the first book, you will find this radio. And I don't see a price. It shows that it has 11 tubes. The reason it has an extra tube is it's got a rectifier, a 5Y3 GT rectifier tube in there. And, thanks, Kevin, came in with the big tube is the output tube, a 6GE5. I think we're talking about the general radio telephone. To see if that's actually in there, but it says a big tube could be the output tube. We were thinking it was an ECL 800. Anyway, back to the Hallicrafters. I'm looking for a price. I know the CB3A, I think, was $159 or $169. I'm thinking that this would probably be in that price range. It was hard to say when a lot of the radios first came out. They weren't very inexpensive. I know some of the ICOs were, because they were kits. This wasn't a kit, so I'm sure it was probably well over $100, but I cannot find a price point for this either. I have another chart to check, which is not handy right at the moment, but can't find a price. Over.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll look at my other books. It comes in at 61 was the latest I got on the thing. On the 60, it ain't short of CB radios on this. On this series of books that I got. But I'll find it somewhere if you don't find it. All right, hey, thanks for checking. By the way, the speaker on this thing is on the right-hand front. You look at the radio there. It's a really very good speaker. The whole radio is real good. I tell you, it's well made, like a Hallicrafters radio should be. The only thing is you can't open the thing up and get in and work inside it like you can on the later model ones, but who cares? Okay, thanks for checking in, Dennis.
Yeah, this is the Hallicrafters from Chicago. Before the late 60s when Northrop took over and most of the things were made out of Japan. But this is made in the USA. They were fresh out of 1959, 60, 61, the HT32, HT37, the SX111s. They were still going strong with the amateur stuff, so they had a lot of pieces and parts, and I'm sure it's probably got a really decent receiver as well. And figured out how to put the 5-watt DC input transmitter in there as well, and you have the nifty little CB1 transceiver from Hallicrafters. Thanks for Radio 2 tonight. OTR is standing by.
Thanks, OTR.
The OTR, go ahead, please.
SWL 65, checking in.
And over to the big board, the list we go. SWL 65 checking in. I'll get you marked on the big page. Good to have you aboard tonight, Eric. Let me find you on the page. Here we go. Right there where you should be on page 3. Got you checked in.
Thank you. I got a quick question about tube radios. You got a minute?
Yeah, this is the place to ask a question and hopefully maybe get an answer. Over.
I've got a Johnson 223 that hasn't been operated in probably 25 years. Is there anything I should do before plugging it in and seeing if it works?
Messenger 223 is a pretty reliable radio. What people do, or can do, is use the method where you bring the radio up slowly, the AC current into the radio up slowly. How would you do that, and why would you do that? Well, you would do it because apparently after 25 years, a lot of the capacitors start drying up and doing bad things. So if you bring the voltage up to them slowly, it helps to reform them. And instead of the radio going kapow when you turn it on and making a buzz, it might not do that. Now, the device you need to do that is called a variac. I do not have one, but it's basically, think of your resistor-controlled light. You know, you have a light that you rotate the knob and it goes lower and higher. That's basically what you're doing, except you're doing it with a wall plug. You're doing it with a transformer that allows 30 volts to come in, and then you can crank it up to 40 volts, 50 volts AC, and that. And it may take an hour or 2 hours or a good part of an evening to do that. But that would be the recommended way to, one, just be safe, help reform the capacitors in there, the electrolytic capacitors, I should say. And let's see, Richard, variac or use a 60-watt light bulb in series in the AC line. All right, I've never heard that. Thanks, Richard. The variac is what we're talking about. That's the rotary variable transformer, or a 60-watt light bulb in series with the AC line. So maybe that runs things down a little bit. I'm not sure how you would do that. You would definitely want to be safe when you're working with AC like that and connecting things open. But those are the two suggestions. But probably for a radio that's been sitting that long, not a bad way to try it.
Okay, thank you. That's I've seen the same thing, or not seen, but heard of the same thing from what I've read. I just need to track down a variac. Bring her up slow.
Yeah, no, it could still have some bad capacitors, and you might hear a little humming or something on the receive or the transmit, but I think that helps to keep something from just giving up immediately and going pop. And then it could still work, but then you'll have the big buzz, so give that a try. That is on my bucket list of things. I do not have, I had one, I don't know where it is. I bought it at the Fresno Amateur Radio Club swap meet. It's probably not a very good one, but it would probably suffice for the low. You know, it's not, the radios aren't drawing that much power, so we probably don't need a super heavy-duty one. But I've got some same issues with some old radios that haven't been on for a while, and I need the same thing, so I will probably be looking for a variac as well. It sounds like it's one of those things, if you have a lot of old radios or plan to buy them, it'd be a good thing to have in the shack, so thanks for reminding us all of stuff we should have. Speaking of stuff we should have, this is the Old Tube Radio Network, Real Radios Glowing in the Dark. And as I promised SWL 81, we are going to go over to the other room where...
This is the Old Tube Radio Network. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by. It's time now for the current OTR totals.
All right, the current and not final totals here at the top of the hour, 9:03. We have 2 radios so far. The General Radio Telephone and the Hallicrafters, sounding pretty darn good. Your place for glow-in-the-dark radios. Haven't heard any skip coming through now that the sun is totally down, and we are looking for radio number 3.
Break OTR.
45. Station.
All right, we've got 7, 45, and I think that was 93. So let me see. Do you have a radio, Ed?
Yes, I do.
All right, you will be radio 3. Let me go over to Paul. Paul, do you have a radio?
Yes, I do. 45.
All right, you will be radio 4, so after Ed, and then Louie, do you have a radio?
Yes, sir.
All right, you will be radio 5. I just want to make sure there wasn't a question pertaining to what we've been talking about, and I could pick that up. So we'll talk to Ed, then we'll talk to Paul, and then we'll talk to Louie here on the Old Tube Radio Network. As we check in the radios, 27085 is where we're at. If you're listening at oldtuberadio.net and want to see if we're skipping your way, we're on channel 11 with this thing that we do every Saturday evening, thanks to our tube radio operators. Let me bring out the tube radio list. It gets gotten buried here. Radio number 3 at 904. Hello, Ed.
And hello, OTR. This one is the Tram Tr 27 Echo, 23-channel transmit and receive.
All right, it's been a while since we've had the big green, or is it blue? I'll have to wait till I see the picture, but we've had the big Tram box on the air, online. I will find a appropriate photo, which in this case, I think we found from your collection, and we will go back to you for a transmission.
More than likely, yep. It's this radio. It's definitely green. Nice 5x7 speaker. The meter is really large, about 3 inches by 3.5 inches. Nothing small.
Nothing small. Probably out of all the radios, and I think Tram shared this with another one of their models, but one of the bigger S meters installed on any CB radio. We'll call it analog throw. I'd have some large digital meters across the top of the screen, but for analog things go, this is it. Big knobs, all in one box. Browning was pretty good about making things large, but they spread it across the transmitter and the receiver. This is a transceiver, so Tram that was their thing, sort of maybe trying to one-up the Browning, saying, we can do the same thing. We're just going to give you one big box. We'll give you the giant size. Sounds pretty good. Tell us a little bit more about the Tram TR27E, or how you are running it.
Well, this particular one has an Electro Voice 638 microphone hooked up to it, which actually is kind of a stereo plug, which in the lower right-hand corner there, you can see it just plugs straight into the radio. Kind of simple.
Simple is good. Now, this is a little less simple than our CB1. In fact, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more knobs and more switches, and it does receive all 23 channels, and I believe it transmits all 23 channels on the separate dial there. From 1963 is when this came out. This was their top-of-the-line top-of-the-line model, and I think the last in the TR27 series being the E. There were some other TR27s. Sounds good, still working nice, and there is, I think we talked about this before, but if somebody's watching the video, and I'll point the little mouse pointer there, if you have a TR27E and you are not noticing that little red switch between the speaker and the channel selector, that is an additional item of interest. And what does that or doesn't that do, if it does anything at all?
Yes, actually, that one was put in there so you could get extra frequencies down below channel 1.
All right, so it switches in something or out something, and you go down below channel 1, which is typically, AM stuff? Most above. You go high, you go sideband, you go low, and you stay on the AM mode, so that's probably perfect one for that. Wait, there's a space to put in a external crystal. Is that 23 channel transmit, right?
That's correct. 23 channel transmit, and it also has the external receive.
Oh, it's external receive. All right. There you go. I was wondering, why would you have a extra crystal, but it makes sense. You're crystal controlled on the transmitter, and you click through those. Your receiver is VFO, so you're moving it around. It's variable. But let's say you've got a home channel, maybe it's, channel 19, and you could put that receive crystal in there, and then you could be spot on with your receive just by flipping the switch and listening in that way. It's almost like an instant, let's monitor this channel type of thing. So that was pretty smart of them, and it was something they did early on. You don't see that in any of the later radios, but the early radios, they had especially if you didn't have 23 channels from which to choose, they would do that. But that one has all 23, but just gives you that option. It is Radio 3. It's the Tram Tr 27E from 1963, sounding good to 2019. We will go back to you for a transmission before we move on to Radio 4. It's sounding good. Back to you.
Thank you much. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and get a couple of videos in there, and I'll get another one online for you.
All right, we like that because this is the old tube radio network. Stepping up to the microphonium now should be, who's our number 4? That's Paul with whatever he has in it is 910. So, Paul, if you are receiving my signal here, we'll go over to you for a transmission on our radio number 4. Over.
Yeah, you got a good transmission. No problem with you. Anyway, I want to check in another helicopter. It's a CB-7 little phone.
Continuing the line of the little phone series, and the first one from 1959. This one a little later down the road. I think I do have an image here. I'm going to try and pull up the CB7. Let me click that in there and we'll see if that actually is going to work. Yeah, it is. All right, so we'll go over to you for a transmission. We'll pop it up here.
That's the one. Mine, but it's the same radio that I'm talking on the thing. Yeah, this one sold for $99.95. They got cheaper as they got later in the years. I just found that out. Anyway, this is strict personal control, transmit and receive channel. And I have a ceramic electric voice stock microphone on the thing. It says helicopters run on the mic, so I know it's stock. Unless somebody got a stock and wired it in there, I don't think so. And anyway, it's got the lockdown channels on the thing where you can, on the latches, where you can open up the whole thing from the top and you get into the most important things, such as the crystals and the tube. You don't get in the lower end, but you go in there with the screws on it. But it's really a handy radio. Smaller radio than the CB1 by all means, but it's doing the job. Back to you.
Doing the job nicely. Stock audio is good. Looking at the S-meter, maybe I'll pop that in the next transmission. The signal about the same as the CB1. I think this one has a little bit more audio punch on the forward modulation. It's got some nice audio, as did the CB1. So at $100, this was, I wonder if it had the options. The CB3A, notice there's an S-meter there. I don't have a thing saying that was an option or not. And I think the 3A was actually 8 channels. So this might have been just a little step down from the other models, but the Helicrafters radios were set up to go, you can see the mobile bracket on this, base or mobile. That's the way they advertised them, of course, for business or however you wanted to communicate from base to mobile. In the early 60s, Helicrafters made a pretty good big splash into the 11-meter style radios, as they were still at the same time, and one of the few manufacturers that was doing this, still putting out high dollar and high power amateur radio stuff as well. So they made the switch over without having to sort of go clandestine like Swan did. I guess they didn't. They advertised and did it correctly and made things separate enough so they didn't make people upset in the amateur radio field. Over to you for another transmission, and what I'll do this time is I'll bring up the S-meter, just so if you watch the video later, you have to give yourself over to you.
It's got no S-meter, but it's got a red light down on the bottom left-hand side that it turns red Well, it's supposed to turn red. It's kind of orangey red. Probably pretty low for you. As long as that comes on, it modulates a little bit on the thing. So that's their S-meter on the deal. But that's it's just a plain Jane radio, I'll tell you that. But it's doing the job. I looked on here and I took the back off 4 inches on the mic. Sorry about that. Am I blasting you out with it?
No, it sounds good for the stuff. That's probably where you want to be. Radio sounds good, and no problem with Radio 4, the CB7 little phone from Helicrafters, over.
Yeah, okay. Well, on this thing, it's about it on this thing. I think I've said everything about it to be said about it. It's a neat old radio. Definitely neat old Helicrafters radios. And I do like them. So anyway, thanks for checking it in, Dennis. I got one more to go. Break.
All right, one more to go. And I've got one sitting back here. It's the CB, there it is, the CB3A. And they're nice. I've got a lot of Helicrafters stuff in this shack here. The Old Tube Radio Network is where you're listening. If you are listening or watching, 27085 Channel 11 is where we are doing the live broadcast here on the 20th, or is it the 19th? The 20th of April, Saturday evening, 2019, and listening for the radios. We've got another radio coming up next, Radio 5, and there's a break. Let me pick up the breaker quickly, and then Louis, step up into the air chair. You will be next. Break, go ahead.
Thank you, Dennis. SWL 37 checking in.
All right, and we will get Chris checked in as he jumps into the radio area to say hello to our radio operators and SWLs. Got you checked in, Chris. Thanks for that. And we are going to... Did I get everybody? We got 7, 45, and 5. I'm taking notes. Good. Hello, Louis.
Good evening there. I want to check in my Johnson Messenger 223 without the modulation light.
EF Johnson 223 without the modulation light. We do have a shot without the modulation light. They made a version with the modulation light that is somewhere right in between the two knobs there. I'm not sure if that's an earlier version. I would think the addition of the modulation light would be a later version. These were produced from 1968, or is it 69? I think from 1969 to 1972, so there's probably a few modifications here and there. Take it back to you. Let's hear that radio. It's sounding good. Over.
Thank you much. Yeah, and I also had a question. That other gentleman that had the Johnson 223, I was wondering if his had the little red dot or not, the little red dot.
I don't know if he's still listening. His is not on the air yet, but he is going to work on putting it through. I'll change the picture. Just let me see. There it is. The modulation light is above the squelch knob. It's directly above one of the knobs there. So, and let me switch back over to the other picture. They may have changed the front end a little bit. Not really. Just the addition of that maybe different speaker grill. Let me go back. There we go. Hard to say, but your modulation is working. Now, when you talk, does your S meter indicate movement? Does it move around when you key the radio?
Yes. It moves just a little bit, but not a lot. It moves, but not a lot. But it definitely puts out well from what I hear through the computer.
That sounds good. All right. Well, that's your modulation indicator. You should see a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of movement on the meter. It's probably showing your RF. And if it's not moving at all, your audio is low or non-existent. And if it's, like I said, your audio is good now. So whatever you're seeing is the right amount. It's the right way to go. And it's working quite nice. The Johnson Messenger 223 was the Messenger. There was a Messenger 2, and the 223, the Messenger 2. I think it was an 8 to 10 channel radio. The 223, they put it in a bigger box. They added the S meter. They added 23 channels. brought the speaker forward, and as far as I know, this was not set up to do mobile. They had come out with a 123 and a 323 and they started doing solid state things for mobile radios that were smaller, but this was definitely a base radio. Sounds good. It always seems to play well here on the Old Tube Radio Network, so you're taking good care of it.
Well, thank you much. Hey, which messenger was the one that looked like a bread box?
What they called the loaf of bread radio, the Viking, the original Messenger 1. Also, the Messenger 2 was similar, but the Messenger 1 was a very like the CB1A that we had earlier. It was an early 1959 introductory radio for E.F. Johnson. And so it was, the microphone was wired in, was the channel selector knob and squelch and volume, and that was it. But it was basically a square radio size of like a loaf of Wonder Bread.
Exactly. 4 channels, A, B, C, and D, right?
I want to say it is 5 channels. I actually have one here, but it's on the shelf somewhere. It was definitely not a 23-channel radio. It was crystal control for both transmit and receive. It wasn't a variable receive.
Right. The first ones were, because I had one for a little while, and stupid me got rid of it. But anyways, I was just wondering, and back to you.
All right, well, that's the one. But you got the granddaddy here, the 223. That's the deluxe model with everything before they totally went solid state all the way around. And this was a good player. Sears had a version of this radio. They put their Sears Roebuck logo on it. But for a radio to start out and get your feet wet in a collection, this is what you want. An S-meter, 23 channels, crystal controlled, reliability. They always seem to work well, and so I think you'll be keeping that one for bringing it by.
Yeah, no problem there. And if you hear that gentleman out there that's got that other 223, and see if he's got the modulation light or not the modulation light, let me know.
All right. Will do. Let me catch up on some comments here. Richard was talking about separating the crystals so you could swap the transmit and receive where it was 455 off. We used to do that with the walkie-talkie. I had a Hallicrafter's walkie-talkie. And things were a little bit quieter. You know, channel 11, it was a super gen receiver, super regen, so after you get a block away, you'd be hearing all the other channels. We used to swap the transmit and receive crystals, and we'd be 455 off. And boy, having that below channel 1, even though the range, I think, was a little out of range for the walkie-talkie, it sure made things a lot easier to hear. And you'd get your secret channel. And then someone told me that one of the Civil Air Patrol channels worked that way. It was channel 13 if you swapped, and you had the 455 offset. I think it was channel 13. You swapped that, you would be on the one of the CAP channels. Hello to Tim Tron, checking in at the video. We did have some early gray line skip coming in from southwest Washington, and I know the guys were talking to Oregon up on sideband, but it has been, since the sun has gone down, it has been very, very quiet. And wow, I didn't see your note on John Lee about the high gain 623. Uses a 12JT6A in the final modular design chassis, and it needed a extender cards to complete the alignment. So it sounded like it was, I know it was a mil-spec type of thing, but professional. Using the extender cards is typical for some of the broadcast stuff that we would work on, but he said you had to fabricate those. So maybe that's why they are seldom seen and not worked on a lot, because they were maybe not made to be worked on. Maybe it's more of an experimental prototype thing, but sounds like a very interesting radio. And if you've got a Sam's, CB71, they'll have some info on that. I'm looking at the video here. It looks like my white balance didn't quite check out. We are listening for radio number 6 on the Old Tube Radio Network.
How about number 7.
7 for 6 can be a good thing. Let me refresh the comments here. And I want to say, if I didn't get X4000 checked in earlier, I'm getting, on the SWL list, getting X4000 checked in now. Hello to Sacramento, California, joining us. Maryland, Washington, a lot of Washington stations waiting for that skip to come in. Kentucky is still in. Pennsylvania, hello to you. Colorado waiting for the E-skip. Tennessee, Maryland, Virginia, Utah, New York, where it is Sunday morning there. All tuning into the Old Tube Radio Network. Maybe in one ear. If you're in the big Radio Shack, the other ear might be tuned into your favorite shortwave listening device, or maybe you're listening to the big AM guys on 75 meters. Who knows? But thanks for checking out the Old Tube Radio Network. Let's head over to Mr. Ed, who has another radio for us. Over.
That I do. This time, the E.F. Johnson Messenger 223. Just like the other one. No modulation line.
And yours is working just fine. Oh, I'm the shot is still up there, so we've seen that. Instead of that, let me go to, we haven't seen, we'll bring up the Orban loudness meter, see where the EF falls in on as you take another transmission.
Oh, there you go. This one has a D104 Silver Eagle attached. I tried another mic on it, but it was really anemic. You could barely hear the audio.
Audio sounds good here. I sort of have things set up between -20 and -16 on the little dial meter there is where audio should be if it's, within 80 to 100% and sounding good. You are right at -20. So you're right on the low end of sounding. You sound good. You're on the low end of the loudness scale. So that microphone is good. It's doing what it should, and sounds like the radio might internally be adjusted for a amplified microphone or something like that. But it doesn't sound like you're having to shout into it.
Oh no, yeah. With the unamplified mic that was on there, you had to yell at it. You could barely hear anything. The amplified works very well. If I turn it up, it gets too loud.
Yeah, you can't have too much of a good thing, I think, except when it comes to tube radios, even if they don't all function. If you have a room full of tube radios, that's a good thing. Another from Elmer Fudd, or is it Edgar F.? I think number 2 used to call it Elmer Fudd Johnson, but Edgar F. Johnson, the Messenger 223, sounding good. Might have some more if we get the Variac or the 60 watt light bulb trick. Get some more of those on the air. Sounding good for Radio 6. Back to you on the E.F. Johnson, and thanks for bringing it by.
And thank you. Oh yeah, I also have a couple of LEDs in place of the old lights for the S meter and channel selector, and also have Buffalo nickels on the dials on it instead of aluminum or whatever it was there.
Yeah, I'll have to get a formatted photo that I can put up somewhere of that. Or, you probably don't do the Facebook thing. You could actually post on the page, and I might be able to get it that way, but it'd be interesting to be able to throw that one in occasionally. Thanks for your Radio 6. We'll be standing. I think the Jingle Singers are actually standing by. They're tapping on the glass, saying that they want to talk about the latest style. The latest style in 2019 is to be listening to your 1969 E.F. Johnson radio.
You're listening in the latest style at
27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio.
In wonderful
Fresno, California.
And we are looking for radio number 7.
Number 7?
Number 747. We can do that. I need to make an adjustment This is a radio thing, and I need to make an adjustment on the video. That's a sorry state of affairs. Don't add pictures to radio. All right, things are looking good there. And we've got Radio 7. Tell us about Radio 7, over.
That would be the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB.
From Browning Laboratories, is that our first Browning of the evening? Yes, it is. We went all the way to 9:30 before the Browning showed up, but that's okay. We'll take any and everything. Headed classic picture of the Mark III that kind of fits in my format, and back to you for transmission.
There you go, and it also has the gold-plated D104 special edition. What was it? 1976 bicentennial microphone.
I was not really a microphone guy when it came to D104s and wasn't privy to what was out there, but now that I have been educated by the Old Tube Radio Network and our great radio operators, I am coming to find that particular microphone in some instances may be worth as much or perhaps more than the radio.
Yes, they are. In good condition, the microphone can fetch around $500 or more.
So if you ever go to the thrift store and you find one of those attached to any radio, it'd be a good idea to pick it up even if the radio is not working. The microphone is a good choice for that radio. The D104 always works well with the Browning. You've got it set to the, to the net control friendly ping, I think.
Yeah, I've got it on the little ping there. Didn't feel like reaching back there and flipping the switch.
Well, that's good for me. It works fine. I think the one I've got here, I'm going to have to install if I want to get back, use it as a net control thing, I've got to install a much shorter key down chirp to make things go nicely. At 9:30, Radio 7 from Browning Laboratories, the Golden Eagle Mark III, introduced in 1972 when they took the Mark II and were able to combine a lot of the components, the sideband, the adapter, and the sideband transmitter all into the bigger transmitter. I'm not sure what they did to the receiver, if anything. But maybe their most popular seller until 40 channels came around, from 72 to 76. If you had $700 and you weren't going to buy that used Pinto, then you might buy a new Browning Golden Eagle.
There you go. I had a neighbor that had one as a kid, and we could look, but we were told not to touch. Now I have one. I can touch it all I want to. Really love this radio. And they have the D104 on it, but not the gold-plated.
That is just an extra bonus. That's like the nuts and the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae or something. Or that's like winning the lottery and getting the bonus number. I don't know. It sounds good. It's a item of interest. 7 for 7. It doesn't happen often enough, but it's good to hear you out there.
Thank you. Yeah, trying to do some rearranging of antenna stuff, so hopefully get it constantly back on the air again.
Yeah, my 2440 is down. I've just been super busy with other things that are on the top of the list, but hopefully this week things will calm down a bit and I'll be able to coax up the crossband antenna. And I have some HF antennas hopefully going up. And I'm sure on that day where it's 113, I will actually find the time. It's like, oh, now I can work on my antennas. Now is perfect time. It's perfect antenna weather. So if you haven't already, to everybody out there, at least think about working on your antennas. The Old Tube Radio Network is standing by.
All right.
I hear beaconing through. Can you hear me? 45 over.
Yeah, hear you just fine, Dennis. I want to check in at helicopter CB9.
Oh, I wish I would have had the CB, the helicopter's FM 1000. This is a helicopter's evening tonight. And it has been a while since I've heard a CB9. Let me see if I have a photo of the CB9. Looks like I do. So once I pop that in there, we'll go back to you for a transmission. Over.
Okay, you should find my radio there. This is the only one I got. Spike, you kind of hurt my feelings tonight. You know, last week you got me from my frequency. I made sure these 3 radios I'm checking in are on frequency. So you got that to say now. Back to you, Dennis.
I'm copying them fine, so I'm thinking they're good on frequency. All right, I have a shot of the CB9. Looks somewhat similar to the 7. I see an interesting... Okay, this has, like the CB3A, it has the optional S-meter position and the receive VFO position. I don't think this is your radio. I thought we had it. When I brought it up, the picture wasn't coming up, so I've got a substitute here. I'll check the S-meter, see where we're at between the 1 and the 7 and the 9. And from Net Control, thanks for being on frequency. Over.
Yeah, but this doesn't have an S-meter on the thing. This got a VFO receive on it. No crystals on the receive. It's got 6 crystals for the transmit. Because this thing has got the VFO on the thing. It's neat the way it's set up in the radio. It's got a VFO call on the thing. It says right on the bottom here. And of course you match that with your meters, and then you should stay in the thing. And I think it's holding on pretty solid. Anyway, back to you.
Holding up good. It's got the little red helicopter's logo with the lowercase h. That's the same one I've got on my 1969 radio. I don't have a year for this, but I'm going to say it's probably 64, 63, 64, 65. Looked at the S-meter. This radio, power-wise, is probably... It is the lesser of the 3 for your unmodulated key-down power. You're about an S6. You're basically right in the noise when you key the radio, but the modulation is good. It's bringing it up to pass S7, S8. But my guess is the output on this radio might be close to a watt or a watt and a half. But as usual, the audio is very nice on the helicopters for whatever microphonium you got.
Yeah, okay. Well, this one isn't totally finished yet. It's second time I've had it on the air, and I figured out some things I got to do to it. So it'll be better next time, hopefully. But this thing is really neat with that VFO on the thing. It's set up differently than anything else I've ever seen. Now, this is the first one they came out with. And this radio sold for $129. They got the price up like the older one. Interesting. Very nice radio. And the thing is, yeah, I tell you what, I think it's one of my favorites. And I promise you next time, I'll try to get the power up for you, okay?
Well, not necessary. It's, like I said, I'm hearing you 100%. The audio is good, as you will hear on the playback. And I was just looking at the extra items. I am not 100% positive, but I'm thinking that the extra accessories, the S-meter and the VFO, because you can see there's 2 little screws that hold the unit in, are probably, and I'm sure they plug into a board or something somewhere inside the radio, obviously, and they're probably compatible with all of the little phone, like the CB3A and the 9 and the 7. If they've got the slots, I would imagine you can swap them around. If you're putting together one big radio or something, you've got the S-meter in one and the VFO in another, you could swap them in and have one super deluxe radio by just unscrewing the device out of there and unplugging it and putting in the radio you want. So that was pretty cool how helicopters did that, adding accessories that you can buy the radio for an affordable price and add the things, like buying a car, add the stuff as you go along. We are talking with Paul, who is up in the foothills northeast of Fresno in North Fork. about 30 miles away from this location. And he's on Radio 8, one of his Hallicrafters collections back when they were made in the Chicago, Illinois plant. This is the Hallicrafter CB9 little phone. Back to you, Paul. Thanks for bringing it by.
Yeah, thanks for checking it in, Dennis.
And hello, Chris, over.
Oh, yes. Well, we still got a couple before I'm over. It does. Check in general radio telephone. My Super MC11A, 24-channel tuber that glows in the dark. This is the 24-channel version of all those 23s, so, we all know what that 24th one is. We got to figure it out where it's at in there. But, you know what frequency it is. I don't, but whatever. But anyway, and we're running here with a handheld stock microphone. Over.
What would you say if I told you that you were not the first general radio telephone Super MC11A to check in tonight?
I would say must have been Paul checking one or Harvey.
And I would say it was the Green Arrow, Mr. Cliff, checking in his tonight.
You're kidding me. He crawled out the woodwork.
He even brought the Easter Bunny with him tonight.
Was he hopping?
He was hopping as best the batteries could make him hop, I think.
Well, good. I haven't heard him in a long time.
Well, he was actually out on the blustery. He's probably not out there now because it's a little bit windy on the blustery radio patio tonight, and doing a good job, sounding good on the Super MC11A, as are you. In fact, that was our radio number 1, and is also our radio number 9, over.
Oh, man, I should have held on. Let's see. 1, 2, 1 for the third one, I'd made 11. Dang.
Well, we'll see. If we're at 9:41, we might get up to 11 radios tonight. You are radio number 9, and as always, with your standard stock microphonium, it is sounding good as always.
Well, good, thank you. Well, I'm going to try to fire up another one here with a stock microphone. What do you think of that?
I think that's a good thing. As long as it's glowing in the dark and I can hear it on 27085, we'd like that.
We're going to do our darndest.
All right, while you do that, the jingle singers will do their darndest to tell everybody what it is that's happening here on Channel 11 tonight.
What are the magic numbers?
27.085 megahertz, Channel 11.
Are the magic letters?
OTR.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Radio Magic.
Old Tube Radio.
For you.
And we were 010.
82.
From the ditch banks of Biola, putting us into double digits on the radio tonight at 9:42. I recognize that voice, and maybe even the radio, over.
Well, yes, the Browning Eagle with the R27, S23, or S23, R27. I guess depends how you stack them. Anyway, probably want to put the transmitter up on top, though. Anyway, that's what we got here.
Yeah, those are all, what do they call it? Cooling. I don't think they ever came with a fan. So it's just put in the vents and let nature take its course. We have a picture. This is from Mr. Yogi Bear. This is from his collection, where he's got the, and he has it the right way. He's got the receiver on the bottom, the R. Do I have the right, I think I have the right thing here. Yeah, the R27, the S23 on top. But he has an extra added piece, which you may or may not have. We won't talk about that next to it. I think it's called a 180. But yours is doing a fine job. Back to you.
Yeah, we got an extra piece that's called the Golden Falcon. I guess the Eagles and the Falcons fly together sometimes. But anyway, I also have a question. On that tram, the TR-27E, I was just curious, where do you think they get their numbers from? Because, like, so the receiver's R27 on the Browning, and then it's kind of odd, the tram uses the 27 on there. So I was kind of wondering. I think maybe because it's mostly on 27 megahertz, or is there some other reason? And I know a lot of them are 23 because 23 channels, but just kind of curious.
Mel, I think you're onto something, by Jove. There are, even from Tram and Browning, some other stations, some radios that come by that have a 27 or a 23 or maybe an 11 in their name somehow. And I don't know if it was just the board of directors wanting to go to lunch when they're having the meeting. What do we call this new radio? And, you know, the Golden Falcon and the Buzzard or whatever it is they want to call it. And they think, well, I don't know, 23 this or 27 that. So 27 megacycles, 23 channels. And I suppose to keep, when you have a separate transmitter and receiver, to keep it from getting really confusing, to call it the R27, S27. Maybe that would be less confusing. I don't know. But I think you sort of hit onto it, that it was just, you know, the round table meeting, and that was just the easiest thing to do. And then once you've done it once, then you have to figure out something else. So you start with something else. You have an Eagle. See, this is the original Eagle. Then it's like, okay, I got a Golden Eagle. Okay, now we got the Golden Eagle number 2, the Golden Eagle 3. So that was easy. Once they figured out that, and you just add numbers to it. So, at least we know you're Radio 10. Back to you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I counted like the extra slots on the receiver, you know, the in-between channels, and I think it come out to like 7. So, anyway, I thought, well, maybe that's got something to do with it. Anyway, just another thought. All righty, well, thanks for letting me check in the old Eagle, and we'll kick it back to you.
Thanks for bringing it by. That's why I sit in the air chair, or my air chair, to wait for the radios to come in. Popped up the Orban loudness meter, and you're bringing it to minus 15. I sort of had it set tonight between minus 20 and minus 16 would be a good level. You're at minus 15, so that's saying it's got some decent audio. The R27 S23 is the Eagle, the original Eagle series. There was 64 to 68 when the radio came out, $370. There was a Series 1 and a Series 2. Before you go, let's see if we can determine which one yours is. Series 2 base station consists of an R27 Series 2 receiver and S23 Series 2 transmitter. Some of the differences from the Series 2 are larger meters. How would you know unless you see the other one? Okay, neon modulation indicator and lighted on-the-air indicator. So if you have a Series 2... I'll make you do another key up here. You should see an on-the-air indicator and or a neon modulation light. Over.
Yeah, I have them both. I have the on-the-air, and then below that it's the spot for spotting the frequency. And then underneath the meter on the transmitter side is the audio light that flashes red.
Sounds like the Series 2. I think most of the radios that come by those are the Series 2. So I'm thinking they didn't make a lot of Series 1s, or early in the production line they switched over. Operator's manual for that is available at oldtuberadio.com, clicking on the various proper links. But you do not need an operation manual because you're doing just fine. Radio 10... Ron is on the Browning Eagle R27 S23, sounding good as ever. Thanks for bringing it by.
37. All right, thanks, Dennis.
And kicking in for what could be 11, Mr. Go-Boy, I think.
All right, Dennis, we got another one here. I told you there was another one here in the books, but,
I had to beat on it for a while in order to get some receive that I could hear. I need to open up on the squelch part. It's down too low. It won't let me bring it all the way in or anything. So that needs to be adjusted badly on this radio. But I'm going to check in my Chris 23 Plus CB transceiver, 23 channel tuber that glows in the dark, and we are running this here with the original handheld stock microphone. Over.
Chris 23 Plus. What was, I know we did some microphonium testing. Do you remember what microphone you used to run with that? Was it, I'm trying to think, probably something off one of the, like the Gem Marine, maybe a straight plug-in. What was the other microphone you used to run with that?
The D104 Lollipop power mic.
Oh, okay, that's right. We went with, I think what we did, it wasn't the microphone per se, it was just the fact that it was amplified and non-amplified, and if that's unamplified, which you stock mic, you do not need any more audio flavor. I think it's doing just fine. Over.
Well, thank you very much. It's working. That's the main thing. Over.
That is the main thing on the Chris 23 Plus, one of the AM plate modulated Panasonic chassis that was very popular for the early 1970s, the 11-tube issue, 115 volt AC, 12 volt DC if you wanted, and find more about it in Sam's PhotoFax CB45, page 89, or the operator's manual as well on this one over at oldtuberadio.com. Back to you for transmission on Radio 11. Thanks for bringing it by. Over.
Oh, no problem. Well, I got to let you know one thing. You are making the modulation light work tonight.
Even though I'm not in front of the radio?
Absolutely.
Okay, is it a function of, without disturbing the rest of the house, is it a function of where your volume control is? If I'm talking, and I'm talking, and you turn the volume down so you can't hear me talking, does the modulation light still blinking? Over?
No, the lower you go, the higher I go on the volume, the higher I turn it up, the brighter the light goes.
All right, well, that's good. That means you are in control. Because I was thinking that radio was kind of mysterious and spooky and out of control, but that just tells me that you are in control, and that's a good thing.
Well, you know, that is good. You know, I'm supposed to be in control of this station, so I guess I'm doing something right.
Yes, you are. You are doing something correct on the Chris 23 Plus. The other thing is, then, you brought in Radio 11. That seems to be your favorite radio number. Harvey likes to get in at 20, which is sometimes hard to do. You like to get in at 11. That's a little bit easier to do. Ed likes to get in at number 7. That's actually hard to do because there's a lot of people vying for the number 7 position. So it looks like we've got our 7 and 7 tonight. We've got you in 11 tonight. Harvey, if you're listening, you may be tuning in on oldtuberadio.net. I don't think we're going to get to Radio 20, but if we did, it would be Harvey.
Yes, it would. It definitely would.
Speaking of which, let's get in the jingle singers here as we have a few more minutes to check in radios. But first, this word from our sponsor.
Let's do some spelling.
OTR. 27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio. Old Tube Radio.
Well, now, Dennis, I have to ask you a question.
This is the Ask Dennis a Question frequency.
And can I get the number 12 spot, too?
If you have a glow-in-the-dark radio, the number 12 spot could be yours.
All right, well, I jumped from one to a different one, so I want to check in my Courier Royale 23-channel tuber with all the blinking lights and all the mysterious knobs all over.
Well, hopefully the mysterious knobs are not so mysterious that you can't get the radio on the air, but I'm hearing it, so I think you have managed to do that. You had managed to do that.
I didn't get part of that, pardon me?
All right, I think you have maneuvered the knobs, the mysterious knobs, so that you have got the radio to be on the air correctly.
Yes, exactly. You know, one thing, excuse me, I like to share it for you. You know, it reminds me a little bit of the Kenwood with some of the quieting knobs, the sensitivity knobs, stuff right there. It kind of takes out a lot of that little, and make it,
Yes, this was their top-of-the-line radio, the top price, and so in as much, they put in some things that were, that you find in your amateur radios, like the Collins mechanical filter for the receive, giving you a little bit more functionality on the transmit side, probably maybe more closer tolerance on the components, but that's what their goal was for this particular top-of-the-line courier.
They made it work properly.
Well, what they did is they built it so that the operator, meaning you, could make it work properly, which you are doing.
Yeah, I turned the knob on, keyed them after I let it warm up. Then I key it down and say, hey, Yogi Bear. But yeah, anyway, it's working. I just worked that guy up there in Utah has got it on at all, listening.
You know what? I've just looked at the board here, and he is up in the balcony right now. He ran back in the building. He's at the very top row, and he's waving his hands.
Okay, you got those little fingers, too.
All 10 of them.
Yeah, sometimes all 20, but he throws his feet up, too.
He could do that. He's in the balcony, so you should be careful.
Okay.
And we'll be counting and amounting soon. Old Tube Radio Network with a few minutes left to get your radio checked in for lucky number 13. And we might have a lucky 13. Did I hear, was that Jerry?
Yes, but I'll wait till the very end there.
Okay, I think, let's see, we got Chris in with the courier. So I am ready, over.
All righty, I just didn't want to take up a lot of time there. This radio is not worthy of a check-in, but it's the Yaesu 101E, and I was just trying to get it right back on frequency and see if it's going to work.
It sounds excellent. You are like 5/9. The audio is really, really nice. Do a frequency check. Let's see, what can I do? I'm not going to put I want to put the loudness meter up because it's really clear and nice and loud without being obnoxiously overdone. Know what I mean? Back to you for transmission. I'll check frequency.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, that'd be nice if you could do that. And of course, it's got the YC601 frequency display, and I can always calibrate it to get it right on the spot there. But I tried to check in earlier with it, and the microphone I was using that was the one that had a bad element, and I put it up on the shelf and actually forgot about it. And I thought I would try it again here just a little bit earlier, and it was not going to work there. So I had the volume almost all the way up, and now it's about 2.5 to 3, and of course 0 is about 7 o'clock. So it's just not even a quarter of the way up, I guess, right now. And so the carrier level is about 4. So not driving a whole bunch, but hopefully it's going to work. I haven't keyed this radio up about 3 or 4 times since I got it back from the doctor, the guy up there in Florence, Colorado. So Mike Alexander. But I haven't keyed the thing up more than 3 or 4 times. Okay, Dennis, I'll let you do the final counting and amounting. I want to just wait till the very, very end, and I'm starting to lose my voice again. So take care, my friend, and appreciate you letting me jump in and blow the dust off of this thing. So A84.
It did a nice job. What microphone are you using on that right now?
It's an amplified D104, and they're all gray bases, but the ones actually there's one that's dark black. It's been powder coated, and I got it for a song and a dance, but sometimes I get confused and I have to kind of mark on the bottom with a piece of Scotch tape what radio they go to, because I lose track. But it's an amplified D104, And I've got you a little bit better. I've got you about an S9 Plus there, and really clear audio. And the volume's cracked up about a quarter of the way up, and the carrier is up about number 4. So it's probably pretty much similar to the 102 you've got as far as the carrier knobbins and the adjustments and the numbering system, but the volume, the carrier is not quite halfway up there, Roger.
Yeah, on those, because I used to run just a straight 101, early days of OTR for running the net, and the trick to those, because it's easy to because they do so much, it's easy to overdrive those on AM, because they're with the was it the sweep tube 6 SJ6? Anyway, I know it's got the 2 tubes and then the driver. And the trick was to watch the current meter and keep it. Well, Jimmy used to run it at like 150 mils, but that's sort of the top. That'll get you to 20, 25 watts out. I used to run mine half of that and half of that again, like 100 mils or something, and then the audio is just working great. And that's the D104. They work really well through an audio board with a little compression. You can run it through the phone patch in the back. You are right on frequency. Those that were listening in, when I switched to upper or lower sideband, you sounded just fine. Maybe you were 60 cycles off from where I was, but the audio was really copyable. And there are a lot of modifications for that radio, especially for the AM side, if you want to change a whole bunch of capacitors to open up the frequency response. But that's obviously not necessary in what you're doing. It really sounds good, nice and clear. And that radio is a player. So as long as and the tubes last for a long time, as long as you don't overdrive the carrier like 150 mils or less, 100 mils on the AM carrier, that'd get you at least 4 watts, 8 watts, whatever. So good job all the way around. Makes me long for mine that is not on the shelf. I don't even know where it is. It's been sitting in a while. I may have to do the light bulb Variac thing to get that on the air. Where they fell down a little bit for me was on the receive. I used to have a receive preamp. Because it's good for rejection. If you've got a lot of bleed over, those, because it's got the pre-selector, those are excellent. But if you put that up against Browning or something, sometimes it's like, the Browning's got a better receiver. But rejection, those are a lot better. All right, to the ever popular Yates 101. That changed, the 101 series changed CB sideband. I think that was the big radio that did that between the Siltronics and the FT 101 that really stirred things up for the USA manufacturers when those came around. Let me stop talking and say that this is the Old Tube Radio Network, and we will see if there's anybody else that wants to check in SWL-wise or Tube Radio-wise.
37.
All right, you won't be lucky 13, and I have noted that we got the FT 101 in tonight on frequency sounding good on AM. Go ahead, Chris.
I used to have one of those 101s too, but mine was the E or the double E, wasn't it?
I don't know. I thought you had the 301.
Oh, that was the newer, that was the solid state one. I had the 101 double E also.
Yeah, there was a 101. I have one. Then the E, which had the speech compressor, and then the double E, which I think did not. I never did understand the E double E thing. And then there were some like Japanese versions that were only 10 watts. And then there was a 101B and the ZD, and they got kind of crazy with it. And Ron was talking about 27 and 23 with the 101. They just kept adding numbers, and you had to figure out what the heck they were doing. Tell me about your Radio 13.
Okay, but I have one question. What was the song and dance he did?
The song and dance over?
I think he's been quiet now, huh?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that one.
Yeah, I don't know what the song was, but while he's trying to remember I want to check in my radio down, my last one.
All right, it is your turn. Over.
Okay, but I still want to know what that song and dance was. But anyway, I want to check in. This is the pretty blue one, you know, and yeah, it's similar to the Chris, but it's got a transmitting RX light where it has just a mod light, but hey, it works just fine. But it works, and like I said, I'm running this here with the amplified D104 lollipop, and it seems to be working properly tonight. Over.
It's working well. It took the transmitter was fine. The audio dumped out for a little bit there, but when it came back, you said the pretty blue one. And that cued me into the fact that maybe I should be showing the picture of the Gem Marine G Power Mate.
Oh, I didn't key down hard enough. I must not get this darn thing. It's not been right. Let me see if I know what I need to do. Hello. There, I got that there. I put that over there. I had it over the other way. The needle wasn't moving. Now it wiggles when I talk, so I know it's working. But it's the Gem Marine Products, the G Power Mate.
There you go. It is working now. A different elevation for the Panasonic chassis, the pretty blue one. If you like blue, this is the one you should get. If you liked, was it green? And you get the Robin. And I can't remember what color the Chris 23 Plus was, but you get the same radio inside. You just get a different exterior. That one is working well, sounding good. That was a good 100% transmission that time, so all is well. Over.
Okay, and on the Chris 23, it's the black case. It's the black case with the green line that goes, or actually kind of a greenish blue line that goes across it. So yeah, it's got a little bit of almost that, but yeah, hey, it's working. And on the pretty blue one, it's got a black line going across it, and, so, hey,
Or get one of each, and you'll be able to check in a lot of radios like Chris does here on the when the old Tube Radio Network is on, which we are now, although we will be signing off saying something. I did check. Something popped in the background and make sure there's no smoke coming from the various devices that are on the room here. I think we're all okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Loud and clear is a good thing. And from the balcony, you have got the Utah ha waving a hand.
All right. Well, from the balcony, from the valley, I'm going to be calling you up here in about 5-10 minutes.
All right. Sometimes pre-warning people of your intentions is thanks for Radio 13, the Gem Marine Products. I can say that the G Power Mate. Still windy in the back there. A little blustery here tonight. And hello to Oceanside beaconing in, making it in at the last seconds of the old Tube Radio Network. Thanks, Chris.
You know how you said that instead of Gem Marine Products, you said the Gem Maronics, then you had to come back with the Gem Marine Products.
I sort of combined them. I combined them all together, but I knew what I was supposed to say.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd let you know, and I still don't know what the song and dance was.
Well, we're on Google YouTube, and if the song and dance is copyrighted, it's probably best that we don't do it because that portion of the video will get cut out.
I can believe that.
OTR counting and mounting, but listening for your radio check-ins.
And now I'm back on my Kenwood.
It's mellow, but not as loud.
Yeah, well, I'm what? Oh gosh, a good arm's length away. So hey, it's working.
It is working.
I could make. No, I don't want to make it loud. I just leave it just as it is.
As Mr. Rogers used to say, we like you just the way you are.
Well, did Ray go hide now, since he knows the phone's going to ring?
I just looked at the comment. He says he can't talk right now. He's sleeping.
Yeah, it'd be wishing he would sleep.
You know who's not sleeping, but maybe they'll put people to sleep when they tell us this.
You're tuned to
OTR. Channel 11.
right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us
Old Tube Radio.
and be modern.
All right, I think it is that time for the totals once again.
Ladies and gentlemen, time now for the current OTR totals.
And this would be the current and the final totals for the evening. The episode of... I never signed in tonight. The episode of the Old Tube Radio Network for April 20th, 2019. I don't know what show version this is, but it's been a long time that we've been doing this, thanks to you and your radio collections, such that they are sharing them with us and the shortwave listeners. Do appreciate it. I know sometimes it's hard to make into the radio room, especially on a kind of a holiday weekend when things are going on. So appreciate the fact that we actually did get 13 radios in tonight and 11 check-ins on page 1, 13 on page 2, 11 on page 3, and 16 on page 4 in the SWL items for 51. Our current and new 00 for the next 8 weeks or 7 weeks, whatever is left, is, I forgot already, no, it's Dennis, SWL 77 from the Tower District. And if I find my page here, we'll read off the list. Most heard manufacturer tonight. It doesn't happen very often. That's Hallicrafters. William Halligan would be proud of us tonight. Back in the days of 1932, when he was struggling to get Hallicrafters off the ground during the Depression, little would he know that in the 21st century, his radios would be the most heard manufacturer here on the Old Tube Radio Network. That's good stuff. Started off with the General Radio Telephone Super MC11A. That is the original picture that we always show. That was the radio. Thanks to Mr. Green Arrow bringing by, as he often does, a yearly tradition here on the Old Tube Radio Network. The Easter Bunny, who is probably very busy right now doing what the Easter Bunny does. Thanks, Cliff, for that. The Hallicrafters CB1, the very interesting 1959 introduction, Hallicrafters into Class D radio, sounding great. Just a reminder that your radios are archived in the audio version at oldtuberadio.net. Go to the archive button at the top, click on it, wait a whole bunch of minutes for the OTR magnetophone to load all those little reel-to-reel tapes, and it will scroll down some dates, pick the date that you'd like, and whether it is an SWL or an old Tube Radio check-in, and listen away on your Universal Media Net web player. Also, we do keep the YouTube videos up for a while, so you can give yourself a radio check that way. Radio number 3 tonight was Mr. Ed on the Tram Tr 27E. Radio 4 followed that, Paul, on the CB7, one of the little phone series from Hallicrafters. The E.F. Johnson Messenger 223 from Louis was Radio 5, and the E.F. Johnson Messenger 223 from Mr. Ed was Radio 6. Ed followed Radio 6 with Radio 7, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. The Hallicrafters CB9, Hallicrafters CB9 little phone was Radio 8 from Paul's collection. Chris came in with the General Radio Telephone Super MC118. We had a lot of potential ties going on here, but the Hallicrafters held up the evening. The Browning Eagle R27 S23 from Ron was Radio 10, Radio 11, the Chris 23 Plus from Chris, Radio 12, the Courier Royale also from Chris. And Chris also gave us a triple play there. Radio 13, the Gem Marine Products G Power Mate. Thanks to those who stopped by with their comments and helping us out tonight. Still beaconing in. Stations from Canada. New York is in. X4000, Virginia, Maryland, Tennessee. Lots of California stations. Spokane, Washington. We didn't get the skip that I thought was going to happen. It was purely a gray line thing tonight, at least here on AM. I'm not sure about the sideband stations. Might have had a little bit more luck. Sacramento on the short hop, and short hop north, and Oceanside on the short hop south. And it says, check Bozo's email. I'm not even sure he still has an account. Well, I'll ask him to do that. Good night, everybody. Thanks to SearchLawrence.com and Frodex for keeping the Nixie tubes running. Thanks to all of you for keeping us running. The Old Tube Radio Network 27085. Make sure you get on the air somehow. It doesn't have to be a tube radio this week. Sunspot numbers are up just a little bit, so you never know what might be happening. We'll catch you all later.
Good night. Good night.
Let's take that 6L6 and make it a little bit cooler. Good night, everybody. Good night on video stream from the Old Tube Radio Network.